Hi everyone and welcome back. I am Blake Allwood and I am here giving you a little tutorial on how to save money in an economy that's getting a little tight. So I am an author. I write gay romance, gay fiction in general, fantasy, science fiction, those kinds of things. I've had several of my friends and fans on Facebook say, hey, we're struggling. Inflation is causing our limited funds to be stretched, and having grown up on a small farm in the middle of a very poor part of the country, I learned how to cook fairly cheaply and to live close to the bone, as my people used to say. Last week we talked about how to take proteins and save money on those. Today we're going to talk about how to take vegetarian style foods and make those stretch. Now, when you ask someone, how do I save money on foods, they almost always say beans and rice, rice and beans. They're not wrong. Beans aren't very inexpensive, and they go a long way. And real quick, I'll tell you why beans, I think, are so affordable. Beans are can be grown in very poor soils. They actually make the soil more fertile when they're grown there. So the next year you grow beans, they actually grow better. So beans are one of those things that you can actually grow fairly cheap. As you see here, I've got a few different beans that I use in my diet. I don't have red beans here, which that's one of the things that I love as well. But beans have an international presence. I mean, there's Latinx, there is a lot of the Asian cultures, southern United States. Almost every culture has something that they do with beans, and it's because it is so inexpensive. They're also quite delicious and incredibly nutritious. So I will remind everyone again, I am not here to teach you how to cook. I'm not here to talk to you about recipes. There are literally hundreds of recipes on how to make beans online. You don't need me to do that for you here. But I am going to talk to you about how to do it as inexpensive as you can. Today, I am making black beans and rice. And when we are done, I will tell you how I use them in life. So I do want to tell everyone also, if I look a little sweaty, it's because we have to turn the air conditioner off in the RV so that you can hear me. All right, so I will talk fast and we'll get this done so that I can get my air conditioner back on. So I have already rinsed my beans and soaked them overnight. And if you'll look, I have also added carrots to my mix. Why did I do this? Well, basically because I love to hide vegetables in my soups. Having raised a lot of children as a foster parent, I learned very quick the best way to get your kids to eat vegetables is for them not to know that they're eating vegetables. Spouses are very similar in that way as well. Hide them. Hide them. You can tell my spouse is the one doing the recording. Hide them and they'll eat them. It's a good thing. So again, not doing the recipe with everyone, but I'll put mine together to show you what I do. Now, I have a lot of fresh veg here at the house, and fresh veg is expensive, and there's been debate about why you can eat a sugary snack in the grocery store for a quarter of what it costs to eat fresh vegetables. You may not be able to afford the fresh vegetables, and I have a hack on helping you do something different. But I had these in my house, so I went ahead and I used them. What I have here is onion, celery, and garlic. For me, those are all very necessary things for my black bean recipe. My hack, however, is if you go to Walmart, and I use this quite frequently, if you go to Walmart, this costs about $1.50 to $2, depending on where you are in the country. And if you notice here, they have all of the different things already in the mix. So this might be a less expensive way for you to put your seasonings in your meat. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, if that's what you want to do. Real quick to talk about vegetarian versus not. My family in the summer did not eat very much meat, and that's because we couldn't afford it. My mother worked as a school bus driver, and in the summer she was laid off, basically. And so we just didn't have the money, but we did have a huge garden, and there was a lot of fresh vegetables coming in to eat. So although it would make her insanely mad if she heard me say it, in the summer we were basically vegetarians. She was not a vegetarian. She didn't want to be a vegetarian. But we did that because we needed to save money. It is absolutely true that eating a plant-based diet is a lot cheaper than eating a meat-based diet. So we eat vegetarian some, and sometimes we don't. Today I have leftover pork that I had frozen, and my husband had taken some out of the package to work. So I am going to add my pork to my black beans. My goodness, you are absolutely not required to do that. If you would rather have a vegetarian dish, we often eat our black beans vegetarian. So I add my meat, and then I have spices that I use. Now, you guys, I have been cooking for over 40 years. I have learned how to eyeball it. If you are new to cooking, I do not encourage you to do that. By the way, basil is a no-no for putting in when you're cooking something. I add it to mine because I'm just looking for that little hint of flavor, and I also was taught to cook doing it this way. Black beans are one of those things that you can add really pungent flavors to. You also like a little heat. And cayenne is intensely good for you. So I add that to mine. Not everyone does. So if you ever watch cooking channels, you know that you need almost always some type of acid. That may be lemon juice, that may be lime juice, that may be a vinegar of some kind. Today I'm using lemon because I was taught to cook this by my cousin who was from Cuba, and this is how he did it. Yes, I'm putting quite a bit in. Not so much that I'm going to taste it per se, but I am going to put it there. I also wanted to talk, because last week I talked about buying in bulk. If you buy one onion, you're going to pay quite a bit for it. But if you buy several onions in a little package that looks like this, you can save quite a bit of money. And that's the way I buy mine. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is oil. So I have a friend who absolutely hates putting oil in her food. She just fusses about it every time we go to a restaurant. She fusses about it every time I cook. So I don't always put oils in my beans. However, they do make them creamier. So I am adding a little olive oil to my dish. Not a lot. And recipes, they call for different amounts. I did not want to use that much. I did leave my garlic out to show you buy in bulk. It is so much cheaper. And so that's the key here. So I'm now going to mix this and turn it on. A real quick note about an Instant Pot. They're expensive. And so if you don't have one, you might, and you don't have the budget for one, you may not want to have an Instant Pot. I, however, grew up pressure cooking food. It's a quick way to make dried lentils, dried beans, cook faster. And when you are cooking every day, like my mom did, you have to pressure cook stuff, like I did as well. So I like the pressure cooker on this. I will say that when my sister told me she didn't have one and I was there visiting, I stopped at the thrift store and got her one, a brand new one. I think it had been used once or twice from what the look of it. And I got it for $10. So you can, if you're thrifty and you're willing to go to thrift stores and then cleaning, I mean, you'll have to do a lot of cleaning because you don't know where it came from, you can end up with stuff that doesn't cost as much. So I highly encourage you to have a pressure cooker. I'm going to get mine started, and when you come back, I'm going to have my beans done, and I will talk to you about how we're going to eat them tonight, but then also what I do with beans. I freeze them and know how I use them later. So I'm going to get my air turned back on now because it's hot, and we'll see you guys in about 6 hours. Welcome back, everyone. And it has been 6 hours since we last filmed. As you can see, the food is done. We have our beans are nice and tender and well seasoned. I did forget to say earlier, if you haven't cooked beans before, you really have to use sodium. You're going to have to use salt. And if you can't have salt in your diet, or if you're cooking for someone who can't have salt in their diet, you need to know that if you don't season it before you put the beans in, it's really hard to get it salty enough after. So you may have to choose to have unseasoned beans if you have people in your life that can't have a lot of sodium. But this does require a significant amount of sodium. As you can see, it's not pretty. Beans aren't really a pretty food. They are, however, extremely nutritious, and they are also extremely they go a long way. That's the word I'm looking for. So beans are very versatile, and black beans are no exception to that. I could take the food that's here, I could drain some of the liquid out of it, and I could turn that into refried beans very easily. This is a salad that we'll be eating tonight, and we will make this into a Chipotle style salad. Chipotle costs $20 for this. This costs a whole lot less. I haven't done the numbers for it, but it'll be a whole lot less. It'll be less than $5. One of us will be eating beans and rice out of the bowl. I tend to use brown rice, which I meant to show you earlier. Rice is really, really cheap. Brown rice we tend to go with because my husband has some issues with his sugar intake. So we use a high fiber, and the brown rice is high fiber. So how do you store it? That's a big question, and it's going to determine whether or not you're cooking, and it is a lot of work to cook, and it takes all day. So you want to make sure that you don't have to do this very often, especially if it's just one or two of you. So what we do is we have a method that we go through when we are going to save things. So when I'm going to have a Chipotle style salad, I want rice with mine. And so I freeze. This is one of the containers I bought, and these are very well used. I'm going to have to replace them again soon because I've used them so often. But I store my beans and my rice in the larger containers, and then I freeze this. And so when we're going to have a salad night, I simply pop it out, I let it thaw, and then I microwave it. When I am just wanting like a refried bean, or if I'm just wanting beans for a quesadilla or a burrito, or for any number of things, I use a smaller cylinder container. And why do I do this? Well, because I have a little refrigerator. I live in an RV. Space is of the essence. So I can't just store stuff in large containers like a lot of people can, or like most people can. So I do want to show you how we put our stuff away. Now this is carnitas. This isn't beans, but our beans aren't frozen yet. So this is a container that we have already frozen. It's got pork carnitas in it. You saw me add some of that to the beans earlier when the husband had opened his and used it for a salad earlier this week. You can also use Ziploc bags, but I want to show you the difference. When you use a Ziploc bag, it's really difficult to get all the air out. And air is the enemy of frozen foods. It will get frost burnt, and this one is getting close to it here. If you use the sealed bags, and we have a machine that does this for us, if you use a machine bag, the machine, it pulls all the air out, meaning this will last a whole lot longer than this will. So that's the main things that I wanted to show you. Another really quick thing, because we love Chipotle, I buy a cheap, off-the-shelf, store brand Italian seasoning, and then I go online and I find the mock recipe. So someone who has really good taste buds has basically gone and tasted Chipotle salad dressing. They said, hey, it's probably this. It's very similar to this. So I go and I use their ingredients. I add that, I mix it up really well and let it sit for several hours, and then I have a Chipotle-esque, not exactly, but similar dressing. And by the way, mine is also a whole lot less fat than Chipotle. But we use this on our salads, and we do this quite often. If you can imagine, two people, $20 each, When we leave Chipotle, we've got well over $40 in our food. When we do a salad like this, we have less than 10. Whole big difference. All right, thank you guys. And if you like my video, please go to blakeallwood.com and buy my books. That's the easiest way to pay me for doing this. I also want to remind everyone, people have removed the T from LGBTQIA+ at Stonewall, which is where we have fought for our rights. No one has the right to take a letter out of our acronym except for us. And even we don't have the right to do that. Every one of those letters were standing at Stonewall when it was created. So leave the T and LGBTQIA. Thank you. Have a good day.